These lessons could change your future. Just one small click. Subscribe and grow with us. You're watching, learning, feeling. Will you stay with us? Just one click to subscribe means everything.
Can the world function without shared rules? Or are we forever trapped in a cycle of chaos and conquest? In World Order, legendary diplomat and historian Henry Kissinger examines one of the most profound and urgent questions of our time. How do civilizations with different histories, cultures, and values coexist peacefully in a single global system? He takes us from the battlefields of Europe to the sands of the Middle East and the imperial courts of Asia to explore the evolution of order, power, and legitimacy. In this audiobook summary, we unpack Kissinger's foundational arguments, not from the lens of any single country, but from the view of world history itself. Chapter 1: Chaos and Order. Kissinger opens with a stark reflection. No truly global world order has ever existed. For most of human history, order was regional. Each great civilization believed it represented the center of the world and organized itself accordingly. The West had the Roman Church and the Enlightenment. China saw itself as the Middle Kingdom. The Islamic world saw its law, the Sharia, as universal. Conflict was inevitable when these conceptions collided. Yet the desire for order remained constant because without it, societies fall into anarchy and violence. Kissinger defines world order as a concept of legitimacy shared among major powers, an agreed framework for how states relate to one another, a balance that prevents domination by any one power. Order is not peace. It is predictability, coexistence, and restraint. Chapter 2: Europe and the Peace of Westphalia. The first true attempt at a modern international order came after a century of religious war in Europe. The Peace of Westphalia, 1648, ended the 30 Years' War, a brutal conflict between Protestant and Catholic states that devastated the Holy Roman Empire. Key breakthroughs of Westphalia. 1. Sovereignty. Every state had the right to control its own territory and religion, free from outside interference. 2. Non-intervention. External powers should not intervene in the internal affairs of another sovereign state. 3. Balance of power. No single empire should dominate Europe. Power must be distributed. This was revolutionary. Instead of imposing religious unity, Westphalia enshrined pluralism and laid the foundation for the modern nation-state. Kissinger sees this moment as the birth of modern diplomacy, with permanent embassies, treaties, and pragmatic negotiation. But Westphalia was a European invention, not a global system. Its norms weren't adopted in Asia, Africa, or the Islamic world. This planted the seeds for future collisions between different concepts of order. Chapter 3: The European Balance of Power System. Between the 18th and 19th centuries, Europe developed a complex balance of power system designed to manage competing interests and avoid total war. Kissinger highlights key architects. Metternich of Austria, a master of conservative diplomacy who aimed to preserve monarchy after Napoleon. Castlereagh of Britain promoted stability through trade and naval supremacy. Bismarck of Germany engineered alliances to isolate France and stabilize Europe. The Congress of Vienna, 1815, was the high point of this model. After Napoleon's defeat, European powers gathered to restore borders, reinstate monarchies, prevent revolutionary ideologies from spreading. Features of the balance of power era. Great powers engaged in limited wars. No state aimed for hegemony. Diplomacy focused on moderation and continuity. But Kissinger warns, this system depended on elite statesmen with long-term vision. Collapsed when nationalism surged. Mass politics replaced elite diplomacy. Germany unified under Prussia, disrupting equilibrium. By 1914, a series of miscalculations and rigid alliances triggered World War I, the very catastrophe the balance was meant to prevent. Chapter 4: Islam and the Middle East. While Europe developed secular diplomacy, the Islamic world followed a different trajectory. In Islam, religion and governance were historically unified. The early caliphate was both a spiritual and political authority. Sharia law was not just moral code, but also the basis for governance. This order began to fragment after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire post-World War I. Western colonization redrawing borders without legitimacy. The rise of secular Arab nationalism, Nasser Baathists. Kissinger outlines how the Middle East faced a triple crisis. 1. Loss of unity. No pan-Islamic state remained after 1924. 2. Loss of legitimacy. New borders and rulers lacked religious or historical grounding. 3. Western intervention. From the Balfour Declaration to U.S. wars in Iraq, foreign influence further destabilized the region. The 20th century saw ideological attempts at new order. Secular nationalism, Egypt's Nasser or Ba'athist Syria. Pan-Arabism, a failed dream of uniting Arab states. Political Islam, the rise of the Muslim Brotherhood, Iran's Islamic Republic, and later jihadist movements like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. These models clashed not just with each other, but with the Westphalian principles the global system was based on. Kissinger notes, unlike Europe, the Middle East never agreed on a common concept of order. Its disputes are not just political, but existential. In the second part of this audiobook, we'll cover the rise of the United States as a moral superpower, the strategic philosophy of China, America's post-Cold War dilemmas, the impact of technology on diplomacy, and Henry Kissinger's final reflections on how to build a stable world order today. What happens when a world power tries to lead without being seen as an empire, and another returns to the world stage remembering when it was won? In Part 2 of World Order, Henry Kissinger takes us into the minds of the United States and China, two civilizational giants with clashing visions of global order. He also explores the post-Cold War vacuum, the disruption of diplomacy by technology, and his final vision for a multipolar, rules-based world. This is the struggle not just for power, but for the soul of world order itself. Chapter 5: The United States and the Moral Purpose of Order. Unlike Europe, the United States was born not from centuries of feudal conflict, but from revolutionary ideals. Its founding principles, liberty, democracy, rule of law, became more than domestic policy. They became the lens through which it saw the world. Kissinger explains that U.S. foreign policy has always swung between two instincts. 1. Realism, defending interests through power. 2. Idealism, spreading American values globally. Key phases of American strategic thought. Monroe Doctrine 1823 defended the Western Hemisphere from European influence. Wilsonian idealism, World War I, the U.S. would make the world safe for democracy. FDR and World War II, defeating fascism and building the United Nations. Cold War, containing communism, promoting freedom. This duality made the U.S. a reluctant empire, intervening to shape order but always resisting the idea that it ruled the world. America acts in the name of peace but shapes outcomes like a hegemon, Kissinger notes. He also warns that American exceptionalism can blind the U.S. to the reality that not all regions share its history or values. Examples: post-war Germany and Japan adopted U.S. models. Iraq and Afghanistan resisted them. Kissinger argues that America must find a new equilibrium, one where power, principle, and prudence work together. Chapter 6: China and the Return of the Middle Kingdom. For China, world order has always been Sinocentric. For over 2,000 years, China saw itself as the Middle Kingdom, the cultural center of the world surrounded by tributary states. Kissinger breaks China's worldview into several key elements. 1. Civilizational continuity. The Communist Party sees itself as heir to imperial dynasties. 2. Strategic patience. Chinese diplomacy moves in centuries, not election cycles. 3. Internal unity before external ambition. Stability is always the priority. China seeks respect more than conversion, Kissinger writes. The century of humiliation, when China was colonized by Western powers, deeply shapes its current policies. Beijing is now reclaiming its place, not by mimicking the West, but by reviving its own traditions: Confucian hierarchy, legalist control of society, economic statecraft via the Belt and Road Initiative. Kissinger emphasizes that China doesn't seek global domination like past empires. Instead, it seeks a multipolar world where no single ideology reigns supreme. But this contrasts with America's moral vision of world order. The risk is not war, but strategic misunderstanding. Chapter 7: The Post-Cold War Vacuum. The Cold War was a world of clear lines, two superpowers, nuclear deterrence, ideological clarity. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, many believed the world would naturally become peaceful and democratic. Francis Fukuyama even declared the end of history. Kissinger disagrees. He argues that the post-Cold War period created a vacuum with no single vision of world order to replace bipolarity. Key developments: the U.S. became a hyperpower but lacked a consistent global strategy. The European Union expanded, but its security role remained limited. Russia felt betrayed by NATO's eastward expansion. China grew economically but remained authoritarian. The Middle East descended into chaos after U.S. interventions. In this vacuum, the world became fragmented. Regional conflicts multiplied. Rogue actors like North Korea and Iran gained leverage. Transnational threats like terrorism and cyber warfare rose. Kissinger argues that victory in the Cold War didn't produce a new order. It produced a world unsure of what order means. Chapter 8: Technology and the Crisis of Diplomacy. The 21st century introduced a new disruptor: digital technology. Kissinger observes that technology now moves faster than diplomacy. Leaders react to Twitter more than to treaties. Statesmen once had months to consider options. Now, delay looks like weakness. Digital disruption includes real-time public scrutiny of foreign policy, cyber attacks that bypass borders, artificial intelligence influencing national security. These trends erode the foundations of traditional diplomacy. Secrecy is impossible. Patience is punished. Narratives replace strategy. Kissinger warns that the speed of information now overwhelms the process of wisdom. To preserve order in the digital age, he argues, states must develop cyber norms similar to nuclear arms control, ethical AI frameworks, resilient institutions immune to viral rage. Without these, the very idea of world order may become irrelevant in a world driven by algorithms. Chapter 9. A World in Search of Balance. In his concluding chapter, Kissinger returns to the foundational idea of legitimacy. Order cannot just be imposed. It must be accepted. Today's world is multipolar. The US has power but not dominance. China is rising but not yet trusted. Russia disrupts but doesn't rebuild. Europe is prosperous but often divided. The Islamic world remains in ideological flux. Kissinger offers several principles for rebuilding world order. 1. Pluralism. Accept that different civilizations have different values. Seek coexistence, not conversion. 2. Restraint. Avoid wars of regime change and moral absolutism. 3. Dialogue. Build institutions that promote sustained conversation even among rivals. 4. Balance. No single power or ideology should dominate. Kissinger closes with humility. He knows that history is not linear and order is never permanent. But he believes that if leaders act with strategic empathy, honor complexity, and commit to common rules, the world can move from chaos to stability once again. Final reflection. World Order is not a book of predictions. It is a book of principles and patterns. Henry Kissinger, having served as diplomat, strategist, and historian, offers a final warning. Without order, there is no freedom. But without freedom, order becomes tyranny. We are not living at the end of history. We are living in its next great chapter, one that will be shaped not just by power, but by the wisdom to understand it.
These lessons could change your future. Just one small click. Subscribe and grow with us. You're watching, learning, feeling. Will you stay with us? Just one click to subscribe means everything.
If your journey feels stuck, you're not alone. We've got you. If you found value in this video, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps more curious minds discover this content. Subscribe to Being and Beyond and join a growing community that thrives on knowledge, perspective, and personal growth. And if this video resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Your support fuels our passion and pushes us to create better content. Welcome to Being and Beyond.